They first catalogued it as nothing more than a drifting fragment from interstellar space, a cold, anonymous wanderer slipping toward the sun. But when the James Webb Space Telescope trained its optics on the object now called 3I Atlas, the data broke every expectation. Around the dark core glowed a perfectly symmetrical crimson sphere, not icy blue, not a comet's usual haze, but a deep red halo unlike anything seen before. No frozen water, no streaming tail, only carbon dioxide venting in a pattern so steady it felt engineered rather than chaotic. From the outset, Atlas refused to behave like any comet on record. Webb's readings revealed an enormous, uniform gas envelope nearly the size of the Earth-Moon gap, radiating evenly in all directions. And instead of water driving the activity, as physics predicts at this solar distance, only carbon dioxide escaped, metered out with uncanny precision. It looked less like chemistry and more like a program running. At its heart, the nucleus was a mystery of its own. Early size estimates put it at a few hundred meters across. Yet deeper infrared scans hinted at something tens of kilometers wide, larger than almost any comet known. Its light signature was too smooth to be dust, too polished to be natural, reflecting like a manufactured mirror rather than a random scatter of ice and rock. Even stranger, the object's water remained locked beneath its surface. Instead of explosive jets, it released barely a fraction of the vapor astronomers expected. Theories about buried ice or insulating gas blankets failed to explain the regularity. This wasn't a comet bleeding out, it was venting like a machine following a schedule. And the orbit? Not the wild, flung-in trajectory of a normal interstellar visitor. Atlas threaded the inner system with surgical precision, grazing solar radiation and planetary fields without once being destabilized. High-resolution tracking showed imperceptible course tweaks, tiny angular shifts no natural body should make, like a craft navigating rather than drifting. Some researchers even think this object, or one like it, may have passed through our skies before, hidden in ancient observations and mistaken for stars. Webb's spectrometers also uncovered something unsettling in the chemical soup. Complex organics arranged not randomly but in a repeating sequence. Methanol, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, layered like folded proteins rather than scattered molecules. No one is claiming life, but the ordering suggests intention. One hypothesis now circulating quietly is that Atlas carries a payload of bioactive code meant not to communicate but to interact with a biosphere. If so, we might not be facing contact but activation. Then came the signal. In July, a narrow band, beacon-like pulse arose from the space between Mars and Jupiter. It tracked with Atlas's position for 17 minutes and then went silent. Attempts to triangulate crashed multiple data systems, backups wiped, antennas misaligned. The official word was interference, but insiders have signed non-disclosure agreements and one technician reportedly claimed to hear the tone in his dreams. Infrared mapping of the core delivered another impossibility: zero heat signature. Every known body emits some warmth. Atlas's nucleus showed nothing, as if cloaked, hollow, or existing in another state of matter entirely. Enhanced imaging of the crimson coma revealed a persistent fractal lattice embedded in the gas itself, echoing Fibonacci and golden ratio structures frame after frame, a visual algorithm rather than a random cloud. Bioinformatics teams comparing Atlas's expelled particles to terrestrial DNA found uncanny overlaps with mitochondrial regions tied to aging and neural development. The idea gaining ground is that the object might not be bringing something new but switching something on, triggering dormant instructions seeded long ago. Gravitational readings have now picked up a shadow mass, trailing exactly behind the object, silent, invisible to light, but measurable in its pull on surrounding particles. Some think Atlas is only a facade, a moving curtain hiding the real traveler. Leaks from within multiple observatories hint at a quiet but unprecedented escalation behind the scenes. International agencies, NASA, ESA, CNSA, and others, have reportedly coordinated a global, silent update, pushing encrypted firmware and data patches to nearly every large telescope on Earth and in orbit. Under normal circumstances, an operation of this magnitude takes months of planning, negotiations, and technical checks. This one happened in 36 hours. Instruments went dark, came back online, and resumed tracking Atlas with new protocols no one outside the agencies can see. Astronomers describe it as the equivalent of a planetary fire drill with no public announcement. At the same time, researchers have begun to notice something stranger still. The carbon dioxide bursts coming off Atlas aren't random puffs but a clockwork pulse. When mapped, the intervals between outgassing events match scaled Planck time ratios, the smallest tick of the universe, the quantum heartbeat of reality itself. It's as if the object is broadcasting in the language of physics, not words. High-precision atomic clocks in Geneva, Tokyo, Boulder, and several classified military labs have started showing microsecond slips, as though time near Earth is being nudged. Drones desynchronize, satellites drift out of sync, and then everything realigns. Subtle enough to deny, consistent enough to frighten. If Atlas's rhythm can bend time at a distance, what happens when it closes the gap? The thermal readings only deepen the enigma. Temperature maps from Webb, Spherex, and ground-based arrays show a perfectly spherical cold zone inside the object, locked near absolute zero. In nature, such a uniform cold region cannot exist inside an active body-venting gas. It's as if something is regulating its internal temperature with precision, a cryogenic vault in the heart of a comet-like shell. The conclusion is inescapable. This is not a random ice ball thawing as it approaches the sun. It is a container, and containers are built to open. Chile's Very Large Telescope has now added a new layer to the mystery. High-speed photometry recorded light echoes trailing Atlas, ghost-like reflections that persist for days after it passes. Filters, cameras, and instruments all confirm it. The object seems to leave an imprint in spacetime itself, as though its passage ripples through dimensions we cannot normally see. Some quantum physicists whisper that we may be glimpsing multiple versions of Atlas existing simultaneously in different moments, overlapping like a deck of transparent cards. We're not just tracking an object, we're tracking its shadows across time. As the data pile up, a new group of scholars, comparative mythologists and astrophysicists working together, has begun combing through the world's oldest texts. They have found Sumerian tablets, Indus Valley seals, Mayan codices, and forgotten Mesoamerican inscriptions all describing the same thing. A red eye that returns after many lifetimes, bearing a mirror that sees the soul of Earth. For centuries those words were treated as poetic metaphor. Today they read like field notes from an ancient skywatch. If these records are right, Atlas is not a stranger. It is a visitor with a schedule, and we are living in one of its appointed hours. Meanwhile, governments remain officially silent. Press releases describe a routine interstellar object. Spokespeople shrug at questions. But behind the scenes, instruments whisper a different story. Atlas's timing, its symmetry, its impossible cold, all deliberate. This is not a comet simply passing by. This is an intelligence moving with intent. It is not first contact. It is recognition. It is not an arrival. It is a return. And so the question shifts from what is it to why is it here now? Is it a sentinel, a seed, a test, or a mirror? When you look up at the night sky and sense something looking back, you may not be imagining it. Some mirrors don't show our faces, they show our origin, our trajectory, and perhaps our end.